on a day-to-day basis. Hence, we celebrate his contribution in ensuring that we have what we call SASSA today. That's his contribution. What we need to make sure as South Africans is to ensure his contribution is not lost. His work must always be remembered. I want to call upon our musician, or the Judith Sipuma.
Lord, I lift up mine eyes to the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He said, He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. The Lord which keepeth thee, He will not slumber nor sleep. For the Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand, upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. He shall preserve our soul, even forevermore. Cometh my help from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He said, He will not suffer thy foot. The Lord which keepeth thee, He will not slumber nor sleep. Lord is my keeper, He is my shade upon our head, upon our head. The sun shall not smite thee by day, wound by night. He shall preserve, He shall preserve thy soul, even forevermore. it cometh from Jesus. All of my help is cometh from the Lord. All of my help cometh from the Lord.
Thank you very much, Julius, for the soothing music. It is soothing. Eh? Oba nakso Julius. Ngitheni kanti? I thought ngithu Judith. Ngitheni? Oh Thixo Nkosi yami ndiyaxolisa. Ugcwela phezulu engqondweni zethu ndiyaxolisa. Thank you. We are going to move on. I'm going to call our first speaker. I'm going to plead with all the speakers. I'll give each speaker 10 minutes. Please help me to manage this process in a way that ensures it gives everyone an opportunity to pay tribute. I'll continue saying Zola, because that's, to me, he was Zola. He was a minister, but to me, he was a Zola all the time. Sis Bridget, it's you which I would like you to come and pay tribute to Zola.
Master of Ceremonies, Madam Minister, the family of Skweyiya, Tutugile, Deputy President of the country, of the African National Congress, former President Mbeki, Sizanele Mbeki, ministers, NEC members, leaders of political parties here, traditional leaders, members of the diplomatic corps, I greet you all. I am very grateful for the honor of attesting to the greatness of this man. I thought I should come in from an angle that's rarely spoken about, because so little is known, so little is written. I'm going to talk about Zola Skweyiya as leader as leader of the constitution-making process, believe it or not. I should start by reminding us that one of the important decisions of the Kabwe, the 1985 Kabwe Conference, was the establishment of the ANC Legal and Constitutional Affairs Department. OR, the late president of the ANC, appointed Comrade Zola to head the Legal and Constitutional Affairs Department. The team was situated in Lusaka, comprised of the late Teddy Pekane, Dr. Pekane, Comrade Dr. Penuel Maduna, Comrade Sandile Nogcina, Africa, Comrade Jobodwane, Comrade Matthew Posa, and myself. Comrades Albi Sachs and Kada Asmal were associates working from abroad, but always in consultation with a team that was situated in Lusaka. The department provided other ANC structures with legal and administrative support. It worked closely with the ANC underground, in particular with lawyers from progressive formations handling ANC cases. The department was also linked to anti-apartheid formations internationally, law associations in the US, etc. Members of the team were often assigned special tasks assisting the underground. It is credit to the skillful leadership of Comrade Zola that, delicate as the tasks were, they were efficiently executed. I'm not here to tell you the nitty-gritties of what was done. By the end of 1989, members of the legal department were assigned tasks relating to post-apartheid policies. Inevitably, they were roped into the work of the political work, the underground political work. I also want to share with you the other side of Zola. All of us as human beings are layered. We are layered. Zola, beyond politics and office work, was a caring person. He loved children, and I learned this in Lusaka. At that time, I was a single parent, as my husband was doing his bit with MK. Comrade Zola would carry my last born Sibusiso and play baby games with him. They grew attached and remained connected into Sibusiso's adulthood. In June 1990, the NEC of the ANC, Comrade President Mbeki, I hope I'm telling the truth, that this was properly sanctioned. But Comrade Zola Skweyiya led a team that was deployed into the country. I was one of them. We were to assist with the establishment of post-apartheid policy units, building on work done by the underground, and we were to prepare for negotiations. At this stage, the Constitutional Committee of the ANC was firmly established. It was expanded to include senior lawyers from inside the country. These were senior lawyers based in the country. I can just mention a few, but there were quite many. I would like to start by mentioning the core group that were runners, so to speak. And here I'll mention Bulelani, I'll mention Dala Omar, but of course the late Chief Justices Pius Langa, Arthur Chaskalson, Justice Louis Skweyiya, the late Kada Asmal, our Justice Albi Sachs. These were some of the people who were members of the ANC's Constitutional Committee. I mustn't forget George Bizos. But then there were many, Fink Hesom. I must share with you and say, because ANC ayisabi criticism, ayifanelangi isabi criticism. The big critique of the appointments, of the establishment of the ANC Constitutional Committee was the fact that there were no women appointed, even from inside the country. I think this, you can guess now, spared some of us that going forward, women must be at the center of decision making. Our committee was based at the Community Law Center, and I'm sure there were good reasons why the Community Law Center of UWC was chosen. Comrade Dala Omar was made head of the center. So Bulelani, myself, Comrade Zola were, initially the team that moved in and out of those offices as they were being established. Of importance, and here is the strength of the comrade we are talking about, is that Comrade Zola could work with the head of the center. He remained the chair of the ANC Constitutional Committee and was, of course, the conduit through which we send reports back to the NEC from the work that we were doing. He worked very well with Dala Omar. In fact, Dala Omar used to call him Zola. They go Zola for everybody. He was a warm and affable person. The center became one of the important research bases of the Constitutional Committee. It was working closely with other centers. Immediately at UWC, there was the CDS. But of course, the community law centers, the CLC, and others were feeding into the work of the ANC Constitutional Committee. Again, it was Zola's leadership skill of coordinating, of linking up people, of winning the trust and being respected. I must say that Zola also was a very inclusive person in the style of work. He immediately set up to establish networks of experts in the various fields. At the center, we had numerous workshops, seminars, roundtables, conferences. I must also point out, of course, that Zola had tried to unite the BLA and NADEL because he believed, and he said it openly, that there is the challenge for transforming the legal sector was immense, and it required these progressive forces to unite so as to have the kind of impact that is necessary for actual transformation. That was Zola. I must say that through these inclusive processes of consultations, of networks and everything, many people rightfully claim to have participated in the conceptualization of the new constitution. I'm talking long before the Constituent Assembly, long before the drafting of even the interim constitution. Zola was affable and collegial, recognizing the strengths of all those he worked with, and expressed passionately his views. I must say that uZola ubenenyani. He, during our meetings of the Constitutional Committee, when we were discussing, you name it, structure, even the details of the Bill of Rights, he made very strong submissions, passionately so. I must tell you the big one was language. And I don't know, I wish I had asked him whether he remembers how passionate he was about the return of the land to the people. That was Zola Skweyiya. On a lighter note, you know, when I got spirited and quite talkative, putting my points across, he would bully me and say, "Mawuzole, Bridget, Mawuzole." I miss him for that. I'm about to finish. But I also want to share with you another light moment. You see, me and Zola had been working for the ANC, you know, as volunteers, and never even thought for a moment about a payment. But when we went to UWC, we got paid. So, but we didn't know how to use an ATM. And it was thanks to the former Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, the current chair of UN Women. He helped us and showed us how to use an ATM. Here is what I want to say in conclusion. If we are to honor Zola's legacy and in the spirit of the ANC tradition of saying we pick up the spear of the one who falls, the spear we have to pick up is that those that have power, occupying strategic positions in society, must use their power for the betterment of our people. Zola was concerned about the number, the depth of poverty amongst our people. He shared this very much with many people. I'm one of the people with whom he shared his concern. I thank you.
Thank you, Sis Bridget, for sharing that with us. Indeed, Zola was very, very honest. And he, in his life, he never mixed his words. He said what he wanted to say, and those Minister Khadebe who were in cabinet with him, they knew if he believes in something, you can't persuade him. He will believe in that, whether you agree in the majority or not, but he'll say and make his point. That's Zola. I'm going to ask the chorister of Soweto to give us an item, and immediately after that, I'm calling Tatuma Vuso Msimang azokwazi ukuba asiphe intetho naye.
Oh, Jehovah, Jingumhambi, Kosia, Unamandla, Yena, Dinawo, Jinobu, Taga, Tani, Sendese, Sendese, Kowe wole temalame, wole temalame, Chichi Sendese, Sendese, Kowe wole temalame.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I extend the veterans' condolences to the bereaved Skweyiya and Mazibuko families. Protocol requires that I recognize all the dignitaries and officials who are present here at this special memorial service, and I will do so with meticulous precision without naming any name, really. Save perhaps to greet the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. David Mabuza, and the former President of the Republic, and Mrs. Mbeki Osizanele. I do hope you find this in order. The diplomatic corps too. It's equally important, though, that I also greet the very many people who are here who came to the meeting with no specific titles attached to their names, who came because of their appreciation of Dr. Zola Skweyiya's illustrious accomplishments in life, in the service of the ordinary people. Indeed, that is what Zola Skweyiya's life was about. No one who knew, allow me also to say Zola, I will like him, with respect him, Dr. Skweyiya. Allow me to say that anyone who knew Dr. Skweyiya would not be unaware of the fact that he was a very honest person, that he carried himself with admirable dignity, that he was respectful almost to a fault, and then those who lived and worked with him would also know how committed he was to the cause of liberation. Dr. Skweyiya died when he was a few days short of his 76th year. He was among the earliest young volunteers to answer the leadership's call to arms after the apartheid regime had banned the ANC and the organization itself had decided that it wasn't going to die. He abandoned his academic studies at the University of Fort Hare in 1961 and left the country and traveled via a very circuitous route that eventually took him to Egypt. There he was trained in guerrilla warfare. Circuitous for this group meant clandestinely crossing international borders, mostly without passports. Being assisted by Dr. Kenneth Kaunda's UNIP members, UNIP, United National Independence Party members, as the early freedom fighters headed north towards Tanzania, towards the Tanzanian border. Zambia was still called Northern Rhodesia at the time, and Tanzania was Tanganyika. Getting to Egypt involved a truly slow route on the Nile River across the entire Sudan. I guess today I should say South Sudan and Sudan. Military training in Egypt was rigorous and at times very risky. One of the exercises involved crossing the Nile while holding onto a rope that was strung up in the air across the channel, and then releasing it would happen on the command from which you dropped onto the surface of the river with a lifeboat ready to take you to the shore. It really was no business for sissies, this. Further year-long training took place in Moscow, then capital of the Soviet Union. This was advanced training staff that was dished out to the 23 person group who were there. Here the group was given the whole gamut of weaponry, from a revolver, pistol, light machine gun, machine guns, bazookas, and rocket launchers. Then there were lessons in topography, the manufacture of explosives, homemade, because we never thought we would have access to TNT and other things easily. And there were lessons in topography. We were also taught Marxism and Leninism, dialectical materialism, and the class analysis of the struggle that we're going to be engaged in. Zola and his great friend Duncan Khoza took a lot of comfort and knowledge in this dialectical materialism. They used to joke that when they got back home, they would not say to the children, "Stop fighting now," but they would advise them to stop antagonistic contradictions and rather resort to a peaceful solution of their problems. Zola received specialized training in radio communication. So when the Wankie operation took place, it ended up being Wankie. It was intended to be that in the beginning. Across the river, there was General Ngapai, I don't know if he's here, carrying a radio to communicate with the forces behind. A roll call of the 43 people who first completed their training and went to a place called Kongwa would include names like Zola Skweyiya, of course, Zola Zembe. The two of them passed recently in March and April. There would be Andreas Mutsipe, Lambert Moloi, Duncan Khoza, Goodman, Mencheka Moloi, Abinene, Jojo Mngwaku, Charles Mahambi. They are all gone now, their mission fulfilled. To bear testimony to the fact that they were there, you would still have around with us here today Lieutenant General G.L. Romano, called him Mwema, Toi Shabalala, 83 years of age if he was a day, Eric Keshamtali, General Noshe, and a few others. It is a vanishing species. Comrade Zola's task in Congo was to listen to various international radio stations and present news to us as we stood up in the formation and understand what was going on around the world. As more comrades returned from training in Odessa, in Beijing, in Czechoslovakia then, the MK ranks in Kongwa swelled. We had thought it was going to be a transit camp where we would spend no more than 6 months. As they say, the rest is history. Before too many people start writing the story of the Lutuli detachment, to which Comrade Zola proudly belonged, here is just a little bit of it. Little bit of it. In 1967, a group of MK and ZAPU people crossed the Zambezi River, fully armed. Their mission was to set up underground military bases in Zimbabwe and in South Africa. They are crossing at a carefully selected spot, and the gorges completely fooled the Rhodesians. On the day they crossed, O.R. Tambo took his place on the northern banks of the river, and tied to a rope, he slid down to the channel to bid the comrades farewell. The crossing was delayed because ANC President Chief Albert Luthuli had died on the 21st of July, 1967. It was to honor him that the detachment was subsequently called the Luthuli Detachment. This is a title that was to be expanded to cover everybody who volunteered to go and fight before 1976. Very recently, in conclusion, we watched a documentary called Winnie. It told a story. It invited those of us who are still around and many others who may have stories that have not been told to make sure that we contribute to the writing of our own story. Just a brief tribute to Zola Skweyiya. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that tribute to Dr. Skweyiya. May I call Professor Nkomo, and followed by Vusi Madonsela to pay their tribute in honor of Zola.
Mrs. Skweyiya, the Skweyiya family, today is a different day. It is different, but also very special, because we're celebrating a life which has made significant contributions to the change in South Africa. I shall specifically focus on what I've titled Dr. Zola Skweyiya, the architect of the South African Democratic Public Service. He is certainly the architect. And if you read what is in the program, you realize that he was driving the whole process. A few quotations which are very important for us to keep in mind. The first one is about the public service still remains the cornerstone for the current and future success of South Africa. This is where significant resources are committed, both human and financial. Another one, I used the word the public service. I shall refer to how this word came about. The term public servant or public service did not guarantee future employment in the state machinery. It was about professionalism, efficiency, effectiveness in service delivery. The public came first, rather than individuals in office of power. The term placed more focus on earning respect from public servants. That was Dr. Skweyiya's dream, ambition, and vision. Let me go back a little bit again. I want to quote what I wrote a couple of years ago in The Thinker. If it is possible that there might have been errors in the bilaterals and the multi-party negotiations, and subsequently thereafter, then the founding mothers and fathers of democratic South Africa had at least put their shoulders to the wheel. As Theodore Roosevelt articulated it, I quote, "The only man who never makes a mistake is the man who never does anything," close quote. Today, people talk about the public service, people sold out, this happened. But the fact of the matter is that the focus on the public service was very central from Dr. Zola Skweyiya's perspective and point of view. Let me mention a number of people who participated in the activities of the public service to change and create a public service that works. There were the Mandela Mandarins, Sipho Makana, Cindy Somfenyane, Eddie Funde, Tony Mongalo, and Josiah Jele. These were individuals who were working with Dr. Zola Skweyiya to actually try and find a way to build a competitive public service for South Africa. International collaborations were very important for Dr. Zola Skweyiya. Why were they important? They were important because he wanted us to search for new knowledge for the South African public service. He wanted the public service of South Africa to represent the wishes of the people of South Africa, the majority of the people of South Africa. Dr. Skweyiya believed in the emergence of a South African epistemology framework for public administration. He was not dogmatic or ideological, but he wanted us to travel the world and study how other public services were functioning or not functioning, and making sure that when we create the South African public service, it should be second to none. He wanted South Africans to be the custodians of their own forward-looking and progressive destiny. I quote him, "Understanding our own political economy was the solution for the creation of an effective, efficient, progressive-driven public service, driven by the people of South Africa." He did not want to see South Africa degenerate into a dictatorial state where human beings would be oppressed by the machinery of the state or the machinery of government. Hence, he embraced and advanced the notion of Batho Pele, the people come first. Professionalizing the public service was very key to Dr. Skweyiya. Hence, he participated in the founding of entities like CAPAM, the Commonwealth Association for Public Administration and Management in England, where I accompanied him. The creation of the South African Association for Public Management and Administration, very critical to him. He was also a person who was a mentor to young individuals. He wanted to see young people to come into the public service being mentored by senior people so that they could learn from them and become good public servants. He did not want the public service to collapse. As admonished by the late President Nelson Mandela, I quote, this is what Nelson Mandela said, "I do not want the public service to collapse, because if it does, the whole of government will collapse," close quote. Dr. Skweyiya made sure that this understanding was carried forward to the end. In my view, Dr. Skweyiya was not a politician. He did not seek power or the accumulation of power, but he was a statesman of high regard. He understood that the public service must be placed within the guidance of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and maintain neutrality in the running of the state. He interrogated the centralization of power and laws. He held the view that communities still have a strong say in contributing to the development of South Africa and the delivery of services. He was also worried about the political and administration interface. Hence, he held the view that the public service should be neutral. Zola Skweyiya tackled at the last minute one of the critical aspects of creating an effective and efficient system of governing the public service. Whilst many did not understand its significance, Dr. Skweyiya embarked on a successful mission through the bilaterals and the multi-party negotiations to interrogate and reconstruct a public service that was based on the principles different from apartheid. Hence, he rose to become the first minister of the public service in the emerging democratic state of South Africa. It is for these reasons that in 1994, South Africa's best brains were attracted to the public service, and the search for good governance was the order of the Nelson Mandela period, together with Dr. Skweyiya as leader, as minister. Under his leadership, the language of the public service was changed to English, for those who may not know what the situation was. It was changed to English, and the reason was very simple. He wanted all South Africans to be able to understand what is the public service about, what is the public service communicating to the people of South Africa. With these few words, I want to thank Dr. Skweyiya for having given some of us as young people the opportunity to engage and be part of a process of creating a viable and dynamic public service. I want to also announce today to Tugile that we are working on producing not a chapter or an article, but to produce a book on that period, which goes back to 1994, and we want to feature Dr. Skweyiya prominently in the writings. Thank you.
Madam Program Director, in particular Bishop Mpumulwana, if my voice should tremble, please do not be alarmed to imagine that I am overcome by stage fright. It might just be that my Kairos moment is upon me. Director of Proceedings, members of the Skweyiya and Mazumbuko families, Deputy President of the Republic, His Excellency David Mabuza, former President Mbeki and Mama Mbeki, members of the National Executive Committee of the governing party and alliance leaders, honorable ministers of cabinet and premiers, deputy ministers and members of the executive councils, members of the diplomatic corps, traditional leaders, honorable veterans, my colleague directors general, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow South Africans. Greetings to you all this afternoon. Mama Zola Skweyiya's call, which reached me at about 600 hours on the morning of that fateful day, April 11, 2018, in which she informed me that she had been invited to come to the hospital that instant, gave me much consternation. When she went on to request me to ask Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana and Reverend Sidwal Mokhotu to join her at the hospital, it immediately felt like I had been on that path before. That notwithstanding, I still hoped for the best. Her subsequent call, which came at about 7:15, in which she solemnly informed me that Dr. Zola Skweyiya had passed away, unleashed a thunderbolt of shock, which was so hallucinatory in its intensity and rendered me numb for a long while. I sought to convince myself that I did not get the message right. However, the media announcements, which quickly spread throughout various platforms, confirmed the evil tidings which have now deeply afflicted us all. Dr. Zola Sidney Temba Skweyiya, a venerated ANC stalwart and decorated veteran of Umkhonto weSizwe, an unpretentious political colossus and a true servant of the people, departed this world, shy only 3 days for the completion of his 76th year of his age. Being a characteristic public servant that I am, I have decided to defer to Dr. Zola Skweyiya's contemporaries, his comrades in arms, to detail his illustrious political contribution to the struggle for liberation of our motherland. In this tribute, therefore, I shall confine myself to how my colleagues and I at the Department of Social Development experienced him in his capacity as Minister for Social Development, a position he held from 1999 to 2009, in the course of which I had the distinguished honor to serve under him as Director General for a period spanning over 7 years of his tenure. Of course, it is held upon all hands that it was upon his passionate blessing and recommendation in 2003 that Cabinet, under the leadership of former President Thabo Mbeki, elevated me to the highest echelons of the public service, much to the chagrin of some of my colleagues who considered me very young and perhaps even less known in the public service. I am personally indebted to Dr. Skweyiya and his cabinet colleagues of that time and subsequent cabinets that I have had thus far the prodigious honor of serving our country for a cumulative 15 years of uninterrupted service as Director General in 3 distinct government departments. Accordingly, I deliver this tribute principally from a profound conviction that it is the performance of a duty which is incumbent upon me to fulfill. Though, even on this ground, I may not successfully appeal to your forbearance as its hearers, I trust you will permit me to allude to a peculiar difficulty I have had in writing this tribute, especially as it relates to aspects of my personal relations with Dr. Skweyiya. Over many years now, Dr. Skweyiya had become a father figure to me. Therefore, I hope you will appreciate that to give to the world the details of a private life not intended for public consumption, though it may occasion no injuries to the fame of speechmakers themselves, who by habit are often careless and hasty folk, who are often excitable and rather careless persons, it is far otherwise in the case of those about whom such details are concerned, especially about Dr. Zola Skweyiya, who had made it a cardinal rule of his life never to have shared publicly anything about him that was not carefully measured, strenuously labored, and minutely finished. I therefore trust that you will forgive me if such details do not come through in this tribute, despite a view held by some among us about their eulogistic merit. Indeed, the most mournful and lamentable passing of Dr. Zola Skweyiya has called together here today distinguished personages from all walks of life, including representatives from civil society formations, academia, professional bodies, religious networks, and ordinary folk whose lives Dr. Skweyiya has so deeply touched. In addition, this occasion has also drawn from retirement many venerable veterans and stalwarts of our struggle, some of whom fought in trenches side by side with Dr. Zola Skweyiya, men and women we all so much respect and honor. I get the sense that I'm about to run out of the time that I thought was allocated to me. The veterans and stalwarts to whom Dr. Zola Skweyiya was so much attached, who retained that attachment with all the uncommon ingenuousness and enthusiasm of fearlessness, political commitment, and ardent, deep-rooted minds, are here to manifest their own sense of severe deprivation, as well as their admiration of the bright and shining political example which they have so much loved to contemplate. In example, let me say to them, and let me say to all, as a solace in the midst of their sorrows, which death has not really touched, and which time cannot obscure. In particular, this mournful occasion also brings hither multitudes of current and former staff members of the Department of Social Development, who for many years worked their tails off to deliver on Dr. Zola Skweyiya's 10-point plan, to transition the vision and mission of the Department of Social Development from welfare. Among the 10 points, I beg your pardon. Let me conclude, perhaps, in order to respect the decorum of the occasion, with the words from Omar Khayyam, a Parisian polymath and poet who lived in the 11th century, who had this to say, I quote, "With them the seed of wisdom I did sow, and with my own hands labored it to grow. And this was all the harvest that I had reaped. I came like water, and like wind I go. May his soul rest in peace." And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for those words. Thank you, Vusi. I'm going to ask Putuma to render a song for us. After that, I'm going to request Mr. Charles Ngakula to pay tribute to Dr. Skweyiya.
So are creeping in the room. Oh, soon, soon, one morning, death comes a creeping in the room, crying, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, what shall I do? Just call on your mama. Your mama won't do you no good. Just call on your mama. Your mama won't do you no good. Just call on your mama. Your mama won't do you no good. Crying, oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Hush, hush, hush. Somebody's calling my name. Somebody's calling my name. Hush, let me hear you say hush. Somebody's calling my crying, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, what shall I hush, let me hear you say hush. Somebody's calling. Somebody's calling my name. Somebody's calling. Somebody's calling my name. Hush. Oh, let me hear you say hush. Somebody's calling, crying, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, what shall I do? Crying, oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I
I would like to align myself with the recognition which has been given to all of you by the previous speakers. The other day, at a prayer service at the Skweyiya home, one of our stalwarts, Professor Sangweni, spoke. And introducing himself, he said to the mourners, I am the youngest person here tonight. Later on, I said to Bishop Mpumlwana, I should have stuck my hand up in order for me to also introduce myself as the oldest person in that room in the circumstances. Because Professor Skweyiya told us that he met Comrade Zola for the first time in 1974. I met Comrade Zola almost 60 years ago, when I arrived at the Lovedale Missionary Institution for my high school education in 1959. There are just a few things I want to pick up during that period on Comrade Zola. The first one, President Thabo Mbeki, relates to something that has not really gone into the annals of the history of struggle in this country. The establishment of the African Students Association. Because there are many people who think that the first organization of students in South Africa was the South African Students Organization. No, the ANC had established an organization for students called ASA. Comrade Zola, in fact, the first president of that organization was Comrade Thabo. Comrade Zola was the chairperson of our branch at Lovedale. I'm raising this because there are certain things that Comrade Zola did as a disciplined member of the ANC and that particular organization. One time we went to Hilltown. I hope there are some people here who were at Hilltown at the time to play rugby. That team, which was a very good team we were playing against, gave us a real shellacking on the field. But they also beat us up off the field. I don't know what our students from Lovedale would have said that made the students from Hilltown to respond so physically. And some of our students could not even board the bus that we were taken to travel to Hilltown. They had to run most of the time back to Lovedale, which is quite some distance, considering that I'm talking about an institution which was around Fort Beaufort and ours around Alice. That's quite some distance. But there was going to be a return match. And the students at Lovedale were saying, we are going to show them. We are going to be so physical that none of them will leave Lovedale. They will have to be taken from here straight to hospital. Now, there was what was called the Victoria Hospitals in Lovedale, not far from the institution. In a meeting of the African Students Association, Comrade Zola said, it is our responsibility to convince the student body here that we can't attack one another. We still have this mammoth task on our hands to create conditions for unity, not only among us as students, but we need to unite all of those who are oppressed in order for us to fight for our liberation. Of course, when people from Hilltown came, the violence that was threatened did not happen. Later on, we played Fort Hare. At the time, Fort Hare had stars. Almost the entire team played for the provincial side. It was called Border Rugby Football Union at the time. And no less than 10 of them played for the national side. You can imagine, therefore, what kind of team we were playing. But on that day, we outclassed them. One of the stars of the Fortet team was one of our own, Sobizana Mngana. He was a recognized fly-half in South Africa. Of course, he could not be the number one fly-half because at the time we still had Eric Majola. Now, Eric Majola had no peer in terms of that particular position. So Mngana was not on the field of play, but he was agitated because we were outclassing his team. So he moved along the outline and was pushing those from Lovedale who were there. Got to Comrade Zola, pushed him away from the line. Of course, Comrade Zola moved off. He still went to him and said, "Didn't you hear I said, get off the line?" And Comrade Zola said, "But I'm a meter away from the line," which was a yard at the time. But I'm a yard away from the line. And Sobizana attacked him. We all came round because we wanted to assist Zola. But Zola said, "No, don't do that. Don't do that. Even in this situation, we can't fight one another." The next time I saw Comrade Zola was at the Kabwe conference, which has already been mentioned. Before that, the last time I had spoken with him was at a trial where Judge Zola Skweyiya was rendering a service. At the time, he was an advocate. And we started talking about Zola because he had recently been hauled by the special branch to interrogate him about a statement Comrade Zola had made over Radio Freedom. But when we met at the Kabwe conference, I was so excited, he also was excited. Because you can imagine, the last time I had seen him was in the early 60s, and now this was 85. Of course, in the fullness of time, we were back in the country. But I do want to say that the Kabwe conference was possibly one of the best episodes of the history of the ANC. Because there, the delegates were discharging a task, in fact, an order given to them by Comrade O.R. Tambo, who had said the 80s must be the decade of our liberation. Therefore, Kabwe was expected to produce a program that indeed would make the 80s that kind of decade. And I have been arguing that he was correct. Because, if truth be told, we got our liberation by the end of the 80s. Because early the following year, 1990, certain things started to happen. Our organizations were unbanned. Madiba and the other leaders who were on Robben Island were freed. Then I found myself part of the cabinet when Comrade Thabo was the president. Now, Comrade Zola had a curious turn of phrase which he would use when he wanted to make an input, particularly on critical issues under discussion. He would raise his hand, President Mbeki would recognize him, and he would say, but I think it was tongue-in-cheek. He would say, he would say, I am a little bit very much concerned. After that, of course, he would make his input. But his input was always intended, and it succeeded, to push us in a direction which we had overlooked, but which was critical to the issue under discussion. Comrade Zola, Tangana, Steve Chwete, and Maduna, had some unit, which you will have to forgive me, it was actually a drinking unit. Now and again, I found myself in there. Now, I don't drink. You can ask Bishop Mpumlwana. I don't drink. The only time I drink is a little bit of wine, which is less than a teaspoon when I go to church. And I'm sorry, my wife is here, and this has nothing to do with her, but I don't go to church that often. Which means, in all intents and purposes, I don't drink. Now, during those sessions, my goodness, you listen to the kinds of discussions. Invariably, of course, Tangana, when he was trying, because we would be discussing, and Tangana would be saying all manner of funny things. And when we challenged him, he would say, listen here, you boys, I'm older than you. And he would say, even if I was born only 1 minute before you, I'm older than you. 6 weeks ago, we went, my wife and I, to see Comrade Zola in hospital. Immediately we came round his bed, he raised political issues. We discussed politics and he was becoming agitated, and we say, but please man, let's do this, which we have done in the past. When you are discharged, we were under the impression at the time that he was going to be discharged the following day. This is what we were told. And this is what the doctors had said to him and to Gil. So we will discuss when we get back home. Then we went abroad and received a message that Zola was critically ill in hospital. And of course, the rest is history. But Comrade Tutukile, I am very happy that once upon a time, I did walk together with this giant of our struggle. I was doing research a while back, and I met people who were together with him at Kongwa, where they trained as soldiers. And I was told about an intervention that Comrade Zola made there. I'm sure you will understand that. If you take young people, and these people are very young, man, in their early 20s, you have young people that you have trained to carry and use weapons of war. Then problems, if you do not deploy them immediately after their training, will arise. And part of the problems then, Comrade Mavuso is here, he will attest to this, where that then divisions started to arise. And some of those divisions were ethnic, while others were even regional. Now, one faction from the Western Cape tried to mobilize Comrade Zola to be part of those factions. And Comrade Zola said, we must not do this because it is against the policies, practices, and traditions of the ANC. Bye-bye, Nzwana. Bye-bye, Comrade Zola. We are happy that you never sold out our struggle. Amandla.
Enkosi Mhlobo, I'm saying this because Sistutu. When I said Mr. Charles Ngakula, he comes to the front and he says, "Intoni ndithi ndu Mr. Ngakula." So ndiyaxolisa comrade wam mhlobam bendithi ndiba formal. We're going to move to the next item. I'm going to ask Judith Sipuma to give us an item. If I can have the tribute now, which will be done by family members. Zola Skweyiya, Standiwe Koroche from the Mazibuko family, Nopila Komote, on behalf of the grandchildren, after the rendition of the item.
Oh my God, I cry in the daytime, but you answered not. I'm not silent and don't find rest, but you are holy. You who dwell in the holy place, where the praises of the Lord they reign. Oh my God, I cry in the daytime, but you answer not. I'm not silent and don't find rest, but you are holy. You who dwell in the holy place, where the praises of the Lord they reign. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord for his mercy endureth forever. To him who alone does great wonders, oh yes, for his mercy endureth forever. Let the people, let all the people, let them praise his holy name, for his mercy endureth forever. To him who gives us, Father, you give good life. Endureth forever. Holy, 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 holy are you, Lord. Holy you are my Father. Holy you are Jehovah. Holy is the Lord, for your mercy endureth. Lord, let the heaven and the heaven and the earth, let it proclaim that your mercy endureth forever. Father, you are holy. Oh, your mercy, Lord, it endureth forever. Father, we praise you. Lord, we praise you. We lift your name on high. Oh, your mercy, Lord, endureth forever.
engifunayo. Umama ophethe inkonzo. Kuthetha ke umama ungakwazi ukukhunja. Kuba uZola uzalwa ngamaXhosa angakwazi ukukhunja. Wafunda ke yena nabanye bayilanto. So ndizathetha ngelwimi lasekhaya kwaXhosa. Ndiyabulela mphathi wenkqubo. Ndibulela nabefundisi bethu kuba sinakwenza nto ingakhange ikhokelwe ngabefundisi. Kuba lo muntu mapha ngumama womanyano. Mandize ke kuZola okanye lo uthethayo apha. Kunontobeko kaSkweyiya. uZola ngumfowethu. Thina ke siyifebele enkulu. Otatomkhulu babeyi-6. Kungekho ntombazana yazalwayo. Abanyana batshata. Anabantwana yanda ifebele kaSkweyiya. Sigcwalise kwela Kapa ke. Size yagcwala i-airport seat. Kuba size kumntakwethu. Ebethanda ifamily yakhe. Enenkosikazi yakhe enobubele ethanda umzi wakhe. Uthuthukile. Sinethamsanqa ke pha kwaSkweyiya. Sinabafazi abayihlonelayo imizi yabo. Sisuka eDurban kuZola kuthembile. Inene samkelwa ngamandla inkosikazi kaThembile. Namhlanje silapha uZola samkeleka. Bakaloku umfazi xa engumfazi ujonga ifamily angaphumi nento zefamily. Sifumaniseke uthuthula enjalo. Into endincomayo kuba babambene nonobandla uSaya. uThixo zabakhusele. Ndize kuZola. uZola uzalwa nguno. uZola uzalwa uzalelwe eKapa eSimonstown uNanziwe. Seningakhathazeki bethu nani xhekwazi na 81. You can imagine. Zahamba nithandabuza. Ningakhathazeki. Uzalwa nguNanziwe. uNanziwe enesisters zakhe ezintathu. No brother wabo omnye. Ongufikile owayehlala eWorcester. Abanye amakazi bakhe bebehlala eBhayi. uAida noLuiza noTokozi. uZola ufundile ukuthi sebetshile abantu abebefunda naye eseHilltown waseFort. Asayazi kuqhubeka ntoni ngoZola akabuyi. uZola wavele weNyamalala asamazi apha khona. Kanti uZola ucross border kabanina ke. uZola ke bekhula ke engumuntu othuleyo. uZola bengayithandi into embi. Angekho umqonde wena. Ungacinga ukuthi umuntu onetshitshi. Hayi, ngumuntu onobubele obuphakathi ungasezumqonde. Ebezelelwe ke Soul River thina sise Soul River bona bese njengoba besenitshilo. Bona bese eSimonstown. uZola ke ibingumuntu othanda kakhulu umama wakhe ba ebezelwe yanguye yedwa kumamakhe. Omnye cousin sister wakhe besigqiba uthetha ngaye sithi wayethanda kakhulu ngumakhulu. Umakhulu xa ba uzaba abanye abantwana uzaba ignora ahoye uZola ngenxa bayayimthanda. Zinto ke zabazali nomakhulu ezo. uZola ke ufundile ke njengoba sentshilo. Wavela kweNyamalala. Kodwa ke kuyonke lonto uZola engekumuntu oyithanda ifamily yakhe. uZola uthandile inkosikazi yakhe. Wabathanda abantwana. Ebengumuntu othanda abantwana sebetshilo. Abamphoyisisi abathanda kakhulu abantwana. uZola. uZola ke esentshilo uZola ungumuntu othuleyo. Manje ngathethi kakhulu bethu sizothi nibhude kodwa ibikhona into eninzi ebendinoyithetha ngoZola ndathi ndibhude noko nidinwe lelixhekwazi lithethe into engapheliyo. Ndiphela apho ke bethunani ndixoleleni kodwa ndiphinde ndithi jaba mamela abantu basekhaya. Kukho umntakwethu osuke eBhisho Themba is the only one kumadoda akhoyo. Kuba uThembile ebengekasweleki ibizoba nguThembile ome pha. Ngoku basweleke bonke. Ngoku usheke uThemba from Bhisho. Uthi sisendifike ndine fever. Ndayifumana le phone sithi iza ngoku. Waqonda ba uphelele akakwazi ungayi uyazi bakusekho umuntu apha ekhaya. Ndiyambulela uZola uThemba endingayishiyanga bethunani zenixole kodwa ngiyaphinda ukuthi Thuthukile ugcine abantwana bakho abantwana bakamfi. Usaya nisoleke nibambene okwendifikile ndinibukela. Ndathi chithi uThixo omkhulu kuba nyani basabambene ababantu. Bafanele ke sifamily ebambeneyo. Yaye ke mntakwethu ubune ichuku uyaphuma wedwa kwifamily yethu. Kuba thina singabantu abathandanayo. Inkosi bethu indishiyayo ndayishiya yemle ayi.
Sanibonani. Deputy President, Mr. David Mabuza, former President Thabo Mbeki, the family of Skweyiya and Mazibuko, the audience at large, all protocol observed. Ngimncane to be standing here. Yes, I am young. But on behalf of my mother, the older sister, Mam Thuthukile, who is not able to be with us today because of health, she has asked me to deliver this letter. Sibonga ithuba uNkulunkulu asiphe lona lokazana nomkhwenyana wethu uDr. Zola Skweyiya. Ekumazini kwethu ube umuntu omnene, onothando, onozwelo. Ubethanda inkosikazi yakhe udadewethu Thuthukile ngenhliziyo yakhe yonke. Bezwana kubonakala noma kubani ukuthi this was a partnership of love and support. He loved her to such an extent that he loved her whole family, her community kwaMashu, where she comes from. Uma ephakathi kwabantu usibari wethu behlala ezithobile, ekhululekile. Okungangokuthi ubengafuni ukugqamisa nokubizwa ngokuthi uminister uma ephakathi kwabantu. Usibari ubengakhohliwe ukuthi siqhamukaphi. Ukuthi abantu bengakhohliwe I beg your pardon, bengakhohlwa ukuthi siqhamuka kuphi thina njengabantu abantsundu. He was a true advocate of the poor. He was never removed from what the poor and their struggles were. Akusimangazanga ngesikhathi njengomndeni sizwa ukuthi uhulumeni umnike ithuba lokuba uMinister for Social Development, because the people have always been his priority. Siyambonga kakhulu, sibonge kakhulu nomndeni wakaSkweyiya indlela bamkhulise ngakhona. Sibonge kakhulu indlela basikhulise ngakhona. Sibonge kakhulu for udadewethu uthuthukile ngakho konke, ngoba konke abakwazile ukukwenza emphakathini by plowing back to their children, to everyone that they've contributed to, was because bekuvume yena uSibari wethu. Zonke ingane zethu njengamanje sezizimele kungenxa yakhe uSibari wethu. Umphakathi wakaMashu kuningi abangakubala abakwenzile ingoba kuvume yena uSibari wethu. Kubonakalisa nokubambisana kwabo njenge couple. Sibonga umndeni wakaSkweyiya omkhulise kahle and for the good relations. Ngaphezu kwakho konke sibonga umdali osiphile ithuba ukuthi sikwazi ukumazi uSibari. Hamba kahle Mboye, hamba kahle Letha. Usebenzele iSouth Africa. Ulisebenzisile kahle ithuba umdali kuphelona to serve the people of South Africa. Wazikhandla ngoba ufuna ukuthi kube nomehluko ebantwini bakini. Imisebenzi yakho iyokulandela. Hamba kahle, ulale ngokuphumula, sokhumbula njalo. Siyabonga.
Thank you, Standiwe. Uphila.
Good afternoon, all in attendance. Umalume, as most of us fondly called him, was a man of few words, and even so, we knew and were certain of his love for us all. He taught me about strength, love, perseverance, even in the presence of doubt, and to have compassion and care for your fellow man in need. Thank you for the love and support you have showed me in the years God has granted us. I loving you called you Malume, but you will and always were my father in the true sense of the word. I would like to recite a beautiful poem called The Broken Chain by Ron Tranmere. We little knew that morning that God was going to call your name. In life, we loved you dearly. In death, we do the same. It broke our hearts to lose you. You did not go alone. For part of us went with you the day God called you home. You left us precious memories. Your love is still our guide. And though we cannot see you, you are always by our side. Our family chain is broken, and nothing seems the same. But as God calls us one by one, the chain will link again. Thank you.
When I heard the news of my grandfather's passing, nothing but shock overcame me, tears coming down my face the second the words came out of my mother's mouth. My urge to drop everything and go to his home as soon as possible was dire, in turn making all of us family members, comrades and friends becoming united in one big gathering. An unfortunate event causing this, but a beautiful reunion of people coming from it. He was a great husband, father, grandfather, brother, comrade, and friend. He was all these things and much more. But God knew he had fulfilled his job on earth. And it was finally his time to rest. He made Gogo, who was the love of his life, the happiest woman in the world, showcasing what true love really is when I grew up around them. He took a key role as father to my aunt Mandisa and Pila, my father Vugani, and my uncles Ketuktula and Vuyo. He was a caring and somewhat scolding grandfather. One thing I'll definitely miss is being told off by him that we won't find husbands because of how late we stay up. He had a quirky sense of humor, and he evoked a sense of comfort into a room. His resilience to his sicknesses in his old age was something to be admired, and I never truly realized the significance of his presence in my life until he truly left it. I would just like to say thank you so much, Nkulu, for everything that you've done. Thank you for being the man you are. Thank you for gracing me with your presence into my life. I love you and you will sorely be missed.
I've basically spent my whole life with this man. Umkhulu was not my grandfather by blood, but he didn't make it feel like he wasn't. Umkhulu and I were bonded by strong ropes of love. Umkhulu was literally the sweetest man I have ever known. I've cried every single day ever since his passing because I lost someone I really cared about and someone who really cared about me. He was literally the best grandfather in the world, and I wouldn't trade him in for anyone. Umkhulu, at school we learned this poem called Indlu Yami Yokuphoxeka, meaning my little shade of disappointment. I left a little space of disappointment in my heart in case you were to leave us because I thought it would help lessen the pain. A part of me knew that this wouldn't help, but it was still worth a try. Umkhulu, I really do miss you. I miss you more than ever. I miss having you around the house, asking me to check your emails, or even asking me how to operate the TV. I miss seeing the TV watch you sleep. I miss your presence. Who's going to tell me that I'm not going to get married because no one wants to marry a girl that wakes up at 11 o'clock? Or tell me that I need to find a man outside of South Africa because South African men are so short and I'm so tall. As hurt as I am by your passing, Nkulu, I'm glad you're in a better place and a peaceful place now. Trust me when I say we will miss you. Thank you for caring when it felt like others didn't. Lalangoto.
Okay. On the 11th of April, 2018, at 7:25, it was a regular Wednesday morning, or so I thought. I was in the car with my mom, and I was thinking, or I was on my way to school, and I was thinking, how am I going to get my dad to buy me that outfit for the party next week? Because I really want to look fantastic, and I want to stand out. That's when my mom got a phone call from my older sister saying that we should come to the hospital because there's an emergency. My mom turned the car around and we went straight to the hospital. And in my mind, I was thinking it was one of those things where you get worse, but you will get better. On the way to the hospital, we were informed by the media that he had passed. In my mind, it hadn't clicked that he was gone. But when we got to the hospital and I looked into the ward that he was in, and I saw those blue curtains, I knew the pieces of the puzzle came together and he was gone. I didn't even get to say goodbye, but it's okay. I think what hurt me the most is that he passed 3 days before his birthday, and everybody loves their birthday, so yeah. My grandfather